Hello and welcome to State of the Economy. Today we have with us a very special guest, Sidharth Birla, former president of FICCI and chairman of Expo India, a group that he runs out of Delhi. We have Mr. Birla with us because he's a very important industry voice, very articulate, and as president of FICCI, he had immense contribution in terms of policy inputs to this government when it just came to power in June 2014. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Mr.
Nice
Birla.
to be back.
Yeah. So you have been sort of you've been in very close touch with the policymakers in this government right from the time you were president of FICCI, and you have you had many inputs from FICCI as well as from your own behalf on various important issues. So tell us, how do you read this budget? Is this a pro-growth budget, or what sort of fillip will this budget give to the economy, and how do you see it?
Okay, first, I think my closeness is with policy making, the process, rather than policy makers per se.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Oh, yes. Just English correction. I'm just coming out of a session we had with Jayant Sinha on the budget, and therefore I'll try to answer. I think it is as important to do the right thing as it is to do things right, and that is the comment I made to him. And I think this budget has addressed the right things, given the because the right thing is always dependent on the circumstances. So we are in a situation where we are post two bad monsoons. We have a lot of rural stress.
And Jaitley mentioned that as one of the biggest challenges, rural demand.
It is a biggest, not only rural demand, it's also that we need to have rural well-being. And unless we can look out for agriculture, because agriculture is, like it or not, the single biggest backbone in the country, in the terms of A, providing food security, and B, in terms of the number of people it employs. Because if agriculture, if let's say a youngster in agriculture, if he's not going to see a future for himself, say in the next 5 to 10 years, he's going to go out looking for a job now, and therefore it's going to add pressure to people who are already looking for jobs. So I think it was, from a multiple indicators, it was very necessary, and I think it was very timely.
Are you satisfied with all that the budget does for agriculture?
I think not just for agriculture, Venu Sahab, I think for the rural
economy
sector,
as a whole,
rural sector, because if you're going to build roads where a lot of the money is actually going to flow, where you're going to build railway projects, where you're going to hopefully lay railway lines, this is all going to happen not inside the cities but in the rural part of the. So that is going to also provide, hopefully, employment at the lowest sort of common denominator. So it's not only priming the agricultural economy by pumping money, but it's also priming by actually providing employment.
And they have also given record allocation for Manrega, which is an income transfer. Although the BJP did not earlier believe that Manrega was the way to go, but I think in these exceptional circumstances they have
that is
they
also
have given a lot of allocation to Manrega.
I think the key is that they are implementing Manrega properly, and perhaps
they're saying as asset creation more than
asset creation. That was one of our suggestions also. That even if it is roads, for example, you can have a Manrega going for a Kacha road, or you can have Manrega going for a Pakka road. A Kacha road is not an asset; a Pakka road is a permanent asset. So I think that little.
And they're also linking it to creation of water bodies in rural areas.
So multiple asset creation, but at the same time, 38,000 crores or something, which is going for
38,500 crores there,
is still much less than the amount that will be spent on infrastructure. Infrastructure will either go into wages or hopefully improve the fortunes of the steel and cement industry, which are again basic industries for the country. So I think it will have a multiplier effect as we go along.
The infrastructure spend is, I believe, of the order of 2 lakh, 20,000 crore or thereabouts.
I think if you look at the roads and all,
village roads, national highways,
came to about close to 2 lakhs, because 1,20,000 was from the railway budget, and about 90,000 was from the 97,000 was from the main budget. So I think it's 2 lakh plus crores.
So that focus, you think, could sort of lift growth this year?
I think it will provide.
I'll tell you why I'm asking you this. Let me frame my question more appropriately. Public investment-driven growth has been a strategy for this government from even Jaitley's, Finance Minister Jaitley's last budget also was heavily public investment-driven. It was assumed that growth will pick up, private investment will pick up, but somehow it hasn't. So this year, the public investment-driven strategy has got further reinforced, strengthened, right? But private investment is still an issue because people are still, industries operating at about 70% capacity, I'm told. Now, explain to me how does that work?
See, private investment, really speaking, other than, let's take a step back into 2014.
Yeah.
So forget the economy was very bad and people had overcapacity, etc. Balance sheets are already stressed. What we see coming out as NPAs today were already NPAs a year ago, or they were heading towards NPAs.
About to become
NPAs. So we are having it's a hangover from the past. But really speaking, even in 2014, we had written our economic agenda before we knew which government is actually going to get formed in the week before. And we had said that assuming you take all the right decisions, you will see effects beginning 18 to 24 months from after you take charge. We are still in the 22nd month or in the 22nd month. So we are actually very much in the time frame when we said that the results would start. We are seeing a lot of FDI interest. Now, a lot of that FDI interest is being driven literally in the hope of having some captive markets in a high growth economy compared to the rest of the world. But if you really look investment on its own merits, private investment was always a far way off, even in 2014. So sometimes, yes, to us it sounds disappointing, but the reality is that.
And it's largely because of huge overcapacities in China and other places.
We are still at 2012 levels of utilization in most industries. Some of the industries sectorally are doing well, but you would find there are people like pharma and others, which are heavily drawing their profits. I'm using the word profits, not just revenues, from global markets, not from domestic markets. And people like software and others, they're doing reasonably okay. But I think private investment was always a way off. But I think Mr. Jaitley did, and Prime Minister did something fairly smart, that unless they were able to get this creaky, I would call it a creaky implementation mechanism that we have, or structure that we have in the country. So unless they were able to have some confidence on delivery of that implementation machinery that we have in the country, it was useless to just keep on pumping up budgets. And even today, I think the proof of the pudding is going to be, are they really going to be able to spend it? Because I think one thing is sure with this government, that if money gets spent, it will get spent well. So I think let's not have two ways about that. The question is the system capable of actually spending that much money and getting the output? So I think that is going to be a key for this year.
Now tell me, I was looking at the FDI figures, Sidharth, and I found that a substantial component of the FDI is in actually mergers and acquisitions. They're not really in greenfield projects, and a good $5-6 billion have come in e-commerce, and they've also come in the form of investments in Flipkarts and SoftBank investing in some of the big e-commerce companies in India. So where is foreign investment in manufacturing? So that's a big worry, because it is believed that Make in India would succeed only if foreign investment really comes in manufacturing, right? So,
well, as far as e-commerce is concerned, personally, I don't understand the business aspects because I'm not involved in that. But just to quote unquote a few friends, and therefore I do not take that quote as my own, is that a lot of the e-commerce was a beautiful transfer of benefits from foreign investors to Indian customers, if you really like, because as far as we could see, they were burning money. And brick and mortar, unfortunately, doesn't have that luxury that you can burn money for even one day.
Exactly.
This is a huge difference. So your beginning valuations are very high when it comes to e-commerce and sort of, the fuzzy kind of business. And when it comes to hard brick and mortar, neither are the valuations that high, and neither do you have the ability to burn money. These are two issues. So that having been said, I think the success of Make in India is actually going to come at the hands of Indian investment.
Exactly, yeah.
It is
That's
going
the
to
point
come.
I'm getting
so
at. Yeah.
FDI will promote
At best, supplement.
At best supplement to a larger scale. If we were looking at 5% FDI out of total investment, say a few years back, it could be 10, it could be 12, it could be 11, it could be depending on which year.
So here is my point too.
Yeah.
That domestic private investment has to kick in.
Yes.
For everything else to then fall in place, right?
Yes, absolutely. If you remember a couple of times earlier when we spoke, I used to say that, if we have one guy saying I'll invest 5,000 to 10,000 crores, we need at the same time another 5,000 people who'll say I'll invest 1 crore.
Yeah.
You see, so I think we have to have that balance, and that is what is going to drive Make in India finally. I think the present time, I think they are setting a lot of things right for the Make in India to catch the next investment cycle when it comes.
In terms of ease of doing business, etc.
I think the next, ease of doing business and, doing away with the Inspector Raj, making it easy for a small entrepreneur to actually work well.
Easing tax procedures.
Tax procedures is going to be a huge issue, and I think with GST we'll also sort out a lot. So, by the time the next investment cycle comes in, hopefully we'll have the GST.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll take a small break here and come back soon. Please don't go and keep watching RSTV. Welcome back to State of the Economy. We are talking to former FICCI President Sidharth Birla, who's giving us his views on how the economy may respond to the union budget just presented by Finance Minister Arun Jaitley. So, Mr. Birla, so you're saying that that private investment has to kick in to really lift growth. So it cannot be done by public sector alone, although public sector is very important.
Yes.
And foreign investment is also very important, but the circle gets completed only if private investment picks up, right?
Yes.
Now, you were saying something about tax procedures. Are you satisfied with the easing of tax procedures in this budget? A lot has been done. A lot of assurances have been given. At least everything is upfront on the table.
I think let's again divide the tax into two parts. One which gets a lot of publicity or positive publicity is the way that the tax department is dealing with the average citizen. Okay, I think there I would say that the tax department has made huge progress, both from terms of e-filing, returns, acceptance of returns, refunds.
Reducing interface with the tax
I think for an average man and an average taxpayer, certainly they've been able to improve life. So as a medium businessman or a small businessman or as a large businessman, I would like to see that kind of positivity comes in there also. I would say that the direction is there, but we are still quite some way away before we see clarity on the direct tax front, which is on the income taxes. Partly it is because of two reasons. One is with say 60 to 70 years of having a very large parallel economy in the country, the mindset of whether it is businessman or it is on the side of the tax collector, I think there are enough distorting factors which can break trust. Even though trust is deserved, sometimes, it's better to be suspicious than not to be suspicious. So I think it's that kind of mentality which will take some time to go away.
So that relationship with the tax department that businesses have, that has to be altered fundamentally, which attitudinally rather. So, in fact, is that what you're hinting at?
No, I have this argument many times with the with officials. I tell them that, tax terrorism, the media likes to project a tax terrorism as what has happened in 3, 4, 5 isolated cases, which give us a bad name or which have given us a bad name in the world. I tell them that is not tax terrorism. That is a misinterpretation of tax laws. Tax terrorism is what the average small to medium to large, or particularly the small to medium businessman in the country faces on a daily basis. And that is not really covered. So that is where terrorism is there. And I'm not meaning it in a bad sense. This is how the system is.
So this government did some interesting things for small businessmen, like people with a turnover of below 2 crores have been given a presumptive tax regime.
I think it's fantastic. The presumptive tax, I think it's fantastic.
And also labor-intensive companies can straight away pay 25% and be done with it.
25. This is not labor intensive. This is a new manufacturing company that is registered after the 1st of April.
And who do not take any exemption linked to capital assets. Yeah.
The only exemption I think they are allowed is linked to extra employment.
That's it.
That's it. Okay, which is I think a very, very fair proposition. Let us see, because that will really kick in only when people start investing. So I think as a concept it's great. Let us see what happens.
But were you disappointed that they didn't reduce the corporate tax for everybody from 30 to 29%?
I think if you take the premise that the finance minister has been saying that, look, I'm going to maintain the effective rate of taxation, do away with the exemptions and reduce the tax rate. So I don't think there is really any case for any of us to say that आपने कहा था कि आप टैक्स कम करोगे. उन्होंने तो कभी नहीं कहा कि मैं टैक्स कम करूंगा. उन्होंने कहा मैं टैक्स कम करूंगा, exemption कम करूंगा.
But here, Sidharth, I want to ask you a question here. Is this the right time for reduction of tax rate and withdrawal of exemptions, especially linked to depreciation accelerated? Because I'll tell you why. Because we are into a new investment cycle. As you're entering a new investment cycle, would you rather that exemptions for heavy investments continue, or should they be withdrawn? I'm just asking you.
I think. See,
but is that a valid
there are pros
question?
and cons. There are pros and cons. I could argue one way. I could argue the other way. The fact remains that at some point of time they'll have to do it. So I think, rather than everybody think about it,
I'm talking about the timing.
Rather than everybody think about it, let's leave the judgment call to the finance minister as to what he feels is a good time to do it. In the sense that we can endlessly argue the pros and cons on both sides. But I think once a direction is set, then I think it's easier, rather than every day we think about it, let's leave it on his judgment.
Another very important issue, which I remember you were the first to flag in 2014 when this government came to power. I remember on Rajya Sabha TV I had interviewed you, and you said you had warned that, cautioned that the extent of bad loans in the banking system was way, way higher than what was being recognized at that stage. It was, of course, a legacy problem. So, and you had also said, as part of FICCI, you had given a figure of about 4 lakh crore plus of recapitalization that banks would need. And you've been proven right after 2 years, because as you really start recognizing the bad loans, with Raghuram Rajan sort of tightening the screws,
breathing down their necks,
and even the government partially. So how do you see this playing out? 4.5 lakh crores of capital needed over the next 3-4 years?
See, I think, again, solutions can be many. First of all, I think the government also has taken one right step, that over the last 1.5 years, a lot of money was stuck in NPAs of road projects and other infrastructure projects, power projects.
And it was assumed that these assets will become good as, projects come on stream.
But I think what the government has been doing is absorbing or keeping back some of the difference between the oil, the gains from the low oil prices, and using that money to resolve these NPAs. So what you're seeing today, by the way, is already after that improvement has taken place.
But that advantage is disappearing because oil is going up now. Today it was $40 Brent.
It was not expected to be permanent, but then as long as the problem got resolved, and I think because the road projects, once they are back on, the old road projects, they will no longer be classified as NPAs. But you're absolutely right. We had written a figure of 4 lakh crores based on some. But I think this...
And you are spot on, actually,
well, as it turns out, yes. Not that we had done any calculation, calculator and calculations. But I think the key of what we were saying was not just the bad loans. The key was, what is the path to capitalization? And sometimes the fact that you're willing to let go of part ownership and allow the market to take ownership, which basically means capitalization through the markets rather than on the expense of the taxpayer. Now, that's a matter of principle. Now, what we had suggested is that recapitalize this through the market. The banks themselves will undergo a re-rating which would improve their valuations.
So government should reduce its stake from 51 to down to some.
We had said 26 plus a golden share. That means on strategic issues, the government could keep its use its golden share. Other than that, at 26%, they could have what is known as the negative corporate control. And so I think it was a matter of principle, because then, depending on how much holding there was, they could have substantially.
The golden share would enable government to keep full control over the
all the strategic matters, because I think the golden share principle has been accepted because of the UK and fairly well understood.
So is the government looking at that? I mean,
no, because I think in fact a budget ago, FM announced that government would not reduce their holding below 52%.
Yeah.
Now that's a very sort of, I think it's a policy of the government. That's a policy of the government rather than an FM's policy. But I do remember that very recently Arundhati Bhattacharya had also at some Economic Times conclave also hinted that the government should bring its holding down below 51. Now, the moment you bring it down below 51, there's no difference below 51, or rather below 50 and 26.
Yeah.
So really speaking, I think we are on the same path. But I think the banks deserve a re-rating, deserve a recapitalization from the market and away from taxpayer money.
Okay.
I think it deserves.
Yeah, sure.
And we'll have more accountability. It may take 5-7 years for full accountability, full professional management to really kick in.
Which is part of that Indradhanush scheme.
It is part of that. Yeah. So I think we need to take it further, much further than we are today.
But Sidharth, before that, we are going through this whole process of dealing with these bad loans. Yesterday, Sidharth Birla, he's been declared a defaulter. Vijay Mallya, the father, has been declared a defaulter, and cases have been filed. What sort of message is going out? Do you think this government is toughening its stand on the big defaulters, and it's going to go after the willful defaulters? There are 10 big groups. I believe there is data to show that have about 8 lakh crore, 7.5 lakh crore exposure, which half of it are near default status.
I have always held that there are two types of NPAs. One which is brought about by sheer business risk and genuine problems.
Yeah.
Secondly, I may not have the ability to pay back what I have, but then you deserve a solution. The system deserves a solution. A willful defaulter is that which has the capacity to pay yet is not paying.
Or he's diverted the money to some other
But effectively ventures. That means he has the ability to pay. Ability to pay what the exposure is. This is, whatever be the background.
So is the government trying to separate the...
I think they are clearly trying to separate. But when you said that is the government going after them, I wouldn't look at it that negatively. I would really say that the system has been benevolent to some aberrations that had crept in. Now, when you try to deal with that aberration, my problem is that when you try to be benevolent to an aberration, what usually happens is that all innocent people also get captured.
Sure.
So life becomes difficult for 100 innocent people because you're letting 4 or 5 genuinely bad cases get away. So I don't think the government is like going after them. I think the government is withdrawing, or at least telling the banks that please deal with it professionally. Yeah. And I think that's a welcome step that will allow the banks to actually maintain good accountability, show accountability.
Sure. Do you think the problem here was that some 15 big groups went into everything over the last 6-7 years, into power, roads, you name it, telecom, and they kind of got so overstretched that today they are just not able to manage so many diverse businesses, heavily capital-intensive businesses. Is that a problem?
Really speaking, I mean, how is that a problem? Because, I mean, the lender is going into it with his eyes open. The guy who's putting in his money is going in with his eyes open. So, it's a genuine business decision to diversify, and particularly if you think that India is going to gallop at 10 to 12%, which it did not. Because much of this money, by the way, started getting committed in the period 2009 to 2012. Which is post the global depression, but it started getting committed then. And so everybody went in it with his eyes open. The issue is that if you've eaten something bad and you have a stomach problem, you have to take care of it. But I think it was just got neglected. Secondly, unfortunately, and I think it's the way we culturally are brought up, we very quickly put faces and poster boys to problems. Now, rightly, wrongly, there is a particular poster boy sort of approach being given to one individual.
And he's saying that, what about the others, you know?
No, it's not a question of his saying what about the others. I think we need to deal with the problem in a professional way rather than individuals in a way, because I can see from my own reading of the situation, there are plenty of others who have been served notices, whose faces have come on newspapers, etc., but actually nothing happens. Why do we get upset? We get upset is that as genuine businessmen, whoever is a genuine businessman, I'm not just calling myself genuine, but anybody who's a genuine businessman will have problems when they go to the banks, because the banks will have an attitude of toughening up everything. They will start making life more difficult at a time when you want the investment cycle to kick in. So I think it is better that the amputation takes place earlier and that we are back to business as usual.
Go for the surgery now and then move on.
And back to business as usual.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Sidharth Birla, for talking to us.
Thank you.
That's all we have in this edition of State of the Economy. We'll be back with you next week. Thanks for watching.